Hey everybody, welcome back to another Pro to Pro. We got a great project for you today and a surprise and a great guest. Say hello to Mr. John Malecki.
Hey.
John, how are you?
Good, Kevin. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so you all know this guy, I'm sure. If you don't, check him out. He is everywhere. This is the raw material. What are you going to teach me how to make?
Yeah, so we're going to make a waterfall live edge coffee table.
Basic design is the slab is going to make the top and one of the sides.
Yes, correct. That's the waterfall. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out by prepping our slab. This was actually pre-flattened. You can buy slabs like this at the lumber provider that come pre-surfaced. So this one's already flat on the top and bottom. We're just going to remove the bark.
All right, that's pretty cool. How do you want to get this off?
So we're going to start out with a chisel and a hammer. And when the wood's dry, the bark usually peels off pretty easily. Yeah, there you go.
Let's see how far down we can get
perfect.
this guy going.
See, nailed it. Give her a flip. So we got a draw knife. That's a pretty cool tool. What you're gonna do is we're gonna take it and we're gonna pull it down and we're gonna get rid of just this little bit of the bark that's left here on the slab. So you just kind of angle it down and you can see just really light stroke, peels it right off. And they make these with a curved blade too. So once I start to peel through and see that sapwood from this side start to come through here, you know you're pretty good and I can finish it up with the sander. So we're gonna hit it with a fairly aggressive grit. On a sander, I like to use the smaller head. This is the 90. Gives you a little bit more control on something like this.
What grit you have on there?
We have 40 grit on this one.
You like?
Yeah, looking good.
Let's flip it. Cue the music, Benny Hill. And so it's all about the color, right? As soon as the dark goes away and you expose the lighter wood, you're there.
Yeah, I really like to see that sapwood in the live edge.
So this is an aggressive grit.
Yeah, very aggressive. We'll hit it with a lighter grit. It'll really start to buff up that live edge and give us a little bit more of a sheen, and it'll really start to look like a nice fine piece of furniture.
Okay, so this is going to be our top, right?
Yes.
Look at a beautiful cathedral.
Yeah, we've got some nice cathedrals in the center here. So what we're going to try to do is drop our waterfall to where you get the cathedral on both sides of it. But in order to do so, we have to find some sort of reference line because there's no square edge on a slab. So you have to like create your own. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the center of the slab itself at a couple points, and then I'm gonna see which one I like the way it looks best.
Okay.
And then I'll run a reference line down the middle. Nice. So now we're gonna kind of connect the dots. And so what we're doing here is giving ourselves just something in the slab to reference.
You like that?
Yeah, this is looking good. So now we have a center line. We're gonna take a reference line off of it. And this is the widest part of the slab, so we're gonna get as much of it as we possibly can. So I'm gonna line it up with the center and then transfer it across, and then we'll reference everything else off of this line.
That's the end of our coffee table.
Yeah, and then a typical coffee table, I like to be around the 40 inches ballpark. Give you a nice solid top. And we're right in here in this area. So this is all referenced. And because this is a rough piece of furniture on this live edge, you can pick how big and how wide you want it. So we're gonna go right about here, give ourselves a little tick mark. And same thing. This is gonna be our reference mark for the top.
Which is awesome. So now we know that we're going to be square on both sides of that table.
Yes. And this will help a ton if you want to work with live edge, because you're essentially giving yourself a reference. Because what's going to happen is if you cut this square and you're measuring off of it, because there's no square edge, you can still make a straight line, but you can cut it crooked, and then you make a big mistake, and you can't fix it after the fact.
Okay, so that's the length of our top.
Correct.
And it's going to be a waterfall, so this is going to be part of our leg right here, or part of this is going to be our leg.
Yeah, so we're looking for like a mid-century modern style kind of, in the height range. So we're going to be in 18 inches ballpark. And we're not going to cut this one quite yet. We'll wait till we cut this undercut here. That way everything's referencing and you don't have to worry about the kerf of the blade. And that'll, could screw things up because the blade does have a thickness that matters when you're cutting this the way we're going to do it.
All right. Top, leg. Got it.
All right, so we're ready to cut. So we're going to use a track saw for this. That way we can just use our exact reference lines. Put the track right onto the line. The track saw comes with a little depth gauge on the side here. So we're going to set it. We're going to do multiple passes. That way we're not putting stress on the blade. A lot of people just do that cut like they fly through it. Blades go dull super quick. The less you put on the blade, longer it lasts.
Not good.
Not good. We'll start out like a 1/2 inch cut. And come down right before an inch. So we're going to cut it at 90 degrees first. A lot of people think you would cut the miter now, but by doing the 90 first, you're going to relieve a lot of the tension that could potentially be in the blade. That could make that come out of perfect 45. So we're going to cut it straight first, and then we'll cut our 45-degree bevel. It just relieves a lot of the cut, or a lot of the tension that's going to be there, and lessens the opportunity to screw up, which I've done quite a few times. Come down to full depth.
Okay.
Yeah, and what's nice about doing it this way is I don't have to move the track. We're just going to loosen the gauge here on the saw. There's another one here in the back. Tilt it out to 45. Yep. Bloop. Tighten it back up. As you can see, there's a pretty decent cup here. So when I referenced it, what happened was you've got
nice and tight miter
nice and
there.
tight. Yeah.
But as you come to the outside edges, it starts to fall away.
So I'm going to do a little hand flattening and then recut it. Shouldn't be too difficult to fix. So we've got a number 5 hand plane here. So this is going to help me quickly flatten both sides. So you're going to work the high sides first. Give it a check. All right, and we're looking much, much better. We're going to go ahead and just recut this 45 real quick on both parts, and it should have fixed that cup issue.
Just tune it up.
Just tune it up. All right. We're going to go full depth of cut here because we're barely taking any off. I'm bringing a combination square here. Give you a nice, crisp, no light coming through, perfect 45. And now you can see much better miter, huh?
Perfect.
You can get that beautiful waterfall coming over. All right, so we're just gonna put a couple marks on here, give ourselves a reference for where we're gonna put our domino. Now these aren't super important. We're gonna use the sloppy setting on the domino. That way we've got a little play left to right in order to get our edges here, which is the most important part, lined up once it's in clamps. So just find a mark here. Use any sort of straight edge you want. Just want to give yourself something, like I said, to reference off of. And then you can keep it nice and even if you'd like. Just be aware that the taper of the live edge on the bottom side
Comes in from the edge.
comes in from the edge. So you're going to want to avoid it. You don't want to go the whole way out to here because you're going to plunge right through the outside of that live edge. So we'll go about,
So you're picking a number, 3 inches,
yeah, pick a number.
left to right.
Give yourself a mark. So now we just flip it over and we're going to transfer that mark to the other side. We've got the Domino XL here. we're gonna set our fence. It's got a positive stop at 45 degrees for us, and we've got our plunge depth set, and we're gonna use the loose tenon setting. That way we can shimmy this thing and get the graining on top lined up perfect. So we use our reference mark here, little window.
Setting right there. Going to give you that play back and forth.
Yeah, and that's how we're going to be able to look at the front of the table and then line up our grain pattern on the top. All right. So when I look at the grain on this side, we're pretty good. But what you can see here is that because this is wider, like I was saying, than this part, we've got a little bit of an overhang here. So what we're going to do is shape this back into the live edge and blend that in there. All right, so we're just going to draw this out, some slow passes. You can do this same thing with a flat disc on an angle grinder with a heavy aggressive grit on your sander. All right, so we've got the blue pad on here right now. That's the hard pad for flattening, using that on the flat surfaces. We're gonna switch over to this softer gray pad here, and you can see the thickness difference. This softer pad is going to let us finesse the live edge. All right, so it's time for some dominoes. Now, essentially what we got here is end grain to end grain. So you have to have a 10 or something integral in this miter to keep it nice and strong. So I'm going to use plenty of glue inside the domino, spread it around. It's going to be really hard to clean up the squeeze out that would come in the fold. So we're going to try to keep our glue about a centimeter from that edge when we spread it around. All right, get the dominoes in. All right, so now that we've got our waterfall leg glued up here, we want to reference that in order to make our second leg.
And the legs over here, you're thinking wood?
Yeah, the leg's gonna be wood. You can do wood, metal, pretty much use whatever material you want. A lot of options there. I'm gonna try to keep it around, 3 inches from the edge here. And let's say we're gonna do total overall around 14 inches. All right, so we're gonna cut a square edge on our one side, and then we're gonna reference off of that, get our 2 vertical posts cut first, and then the 2 horizontal pieces going in. Reference here. So we got our parts here. Now we're just gonna lay them out. Let's see, super simple. Keeping this little box frame, and we're going to use a domino to join these together. So one cool feature about the Domino XL is it's got these reference pins on it. So we're going to be using, these will hide inside, we're going to be using these 2 pins. And you can use the lines for reference as well. But what we can do here now is, because I've marked my face and the outside, I can take the pin, it'll push this side in, reference over here, and plunge right in. And then I can do the same thing on the face that it's going to be mortised into. So now I'm here, plunge it in, slide that pin up to the edge, and it's going to be the same exact reference and same exact distance. And I don't have to worry about finding that window in a little line that I made. So we'll put the fence down to 90 degrees. We're ready to rock and roll. This is the tiniest glue. Okay. Fit up here.
How's it look?
And that matched up pretty nice. Looking pretty good. We got a nice grain coming down. Super tight. So I'm going to just finesse that over a little bit and blend it. It'll look like it was born that way. All right, so we don't need to be using the aggressive Rotex setting on this. So we've got it set to random orbit, and I got a nice soft pad on there, and we're just going to blend this in.
Love it. That is perfection right there. What grit did you use?
120 grit.
Nice.
You don't have to be too coarse with it. All right, all that's left is to finish sanding. So we're gonna wipe it down with a tack cloth, and then we're gonna hit it with some Danish oil. See, pulling up that dust. Flood coat here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut our holes for our threaded insert. The reason we're using a threaded insert is because I can make it nice and sloppy. It makes the leg removable, and it allows for expansion and contraction, as I said earlier. All right, so you can see we got a nice big drill bit in here. It's, I would say, a third larger than our screw. That's going to allow for slop in the hole, and that's what's going to allow both pieces of wood to move, expand, and contract around where we're fastening it. So we're going to countersink our hole first. That way we can make sure that our bugle style screw sits nice and flush. All right, so I made a little center mark here, and I got another reference mark here. And so what I'll do is I'll line those up. So now we got our little reference points. I'm going to start the hole with the brad point bit, just because we don't have a bit big enough. And then what we're going to do is move over to the full size bit for the insert. So in order to make sure we don't go too deep, I'm going to put a piece of tape right there. Awesome. I'm going to leave a little flag off. For life, huh? Give me one sec. All right, there you go.
And down.
This one. Moment of truth. Oh, it sits. One more wipe down with the tack cloth, remove any ambient dust that may have settled. And then we are going to apply our Danish oil. You're gonna flood the surface, and then you're gonna let it sit for about 15 minutes till it fully penetrates. Then you're gonna wipe down any excess with a paper towel, and then reapply a second coat.
Beautiful.
So let that finish soak in. We're wiping off the excess here, and it's ready for use in 48 hours.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks to Festool for sponsoring the Pro2Pro. There will be more, and especially thank you to John for showing us what to do and hanging out with us. Appreciate
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. This was a lot of fun.
Come back and join us again.
Thank you. I would love to.
Beautiful job, man. Really beautiful.